Welcome to A Dram of Outlander. This is Desiree, your podcaster and the writer for adramofOutlander.com for all things Outlander, from the Diana Gabaldon book series to the Starz TV series and everything in between. This is podcast episode 112, Uncharted, season 3, episode 311 of the TV show. Hello! I'm so glad to be back with you. I can't believe this was the third to last episode for season 3. And the books just keep getting bigger. It's kind of daunting to think about the upcoming seasons. I think the Fiery Cross, which would be season 5, I'm believing there'll be a season 5, is over 1,200 pages. It's a very big book. And Drums of Autumn for season 4 is over 1,000 pages, about 1,100. It's amazing. That's why I had to plot out 9.5 months of read-along episodes. So this adaptation is only going to get more challenging simply by the fact that the books keep getting bigger. I mean, Voyager ended up having to have quite a bit of external character development. Characters who might be introduced had to be shaved off in order to give the proper material to other characters in combination. It makes sense, and this week Karen Campbell and Sharon Goss did a very good job at doing that and giving us a good flow to the story, showcasing Claire's desperation and really giving us Jamie back. He's not out of his mind anymore. And I found that refreshing, so thank you, ladies, for doing that. And this episode is directed by Charlotte Brändström. An all-lady team. Matt is certainly outnumbered this time around. So please go and read the post as well. I put my play-by-play thoughts and commentary throughout. And they're my initial thoughts. What comes up first as I'm watching. So I just finished making Outlander Kitchen's mock drunk turtle soup, and it is worth the process of making the oxtail broth one day and then finishing the soup off the next day. It is delicious, and I can't wait to eat it tonight while watching the episode with my good friend Gina and my husband. We make a meal of it every week. It's our tradition for the Outlander TV series now. I didn't make it for the last episode because I didn't think they were going to serve turtle soup, so I wanted to wait till this week. And guess what? We got turtle soup in the end. It was worth the wait for me. So the Starz Synopsis is, after making a leap of faith, Claire washes up on a seemingly deserted island where survival is her only option. Navigating treacherous waters has crippled the Artemis, so Jamie devises a joyful moment for his crew in the midst of devastating setbacks. But my summary goes something like this. Claire washes ashore after jumping overboard. After her clothes dry, she walks and walks and walks. She sleeps until fire ants wake her. She walks some more. She sleeps. A giant snake wakes her up. She walks and passes out near a home in the jungle. She wakes tied to a bed. An angry woman gives her water. She sleeps. She wakes to meet a priest. He unties her. She's told she cannot travel yet. Mamacita, also known as Angry Woman, sends her to bathe. They have a meal. We learn the priest is defrocked and Mamacita is his mother-in-law. His wife is dead. The Artemis is also dead in the water. Some of the crew is dead. Jamie and others are mending the mast. Aft sail, foresail. They're fixing the boat. A roasted Arabella gives Claire hope. She runs through the jungle toward the beach. She injures her arm seriously. She sees the Artemis about to set sail. The mirror she stole attracts attention. Jamie comes to the shore for her. Tien Cho sutures her arm while Jamie drinks wine. A small peace is made between Claire and Marsali. There's a beach wedding. Fergus is formally adopted. Claire eats turtle soup while fevered. Injects self with penicillin. Drunk on soup, she won't take no for an answer. And Tien Cho is pleased at the soup's after effects. Was that the lot of it? Pretty much. The opening of this episode had that beautiful sea turtle, and it made me chuckle a little bit because I knew Claire would be eating the sea turtle. And in the show, it's a hawkbill. And it really struck me as Claire is on shore that she can sleep anywhere. That's her training as a mother and a doctor, and having been in the military, and probably having to do with how Uncle Lamb brought her up as well. But it reminded me of Samwise and Frodo walking to Mordor, trying to return that precious. And Claire is just walking and walking and walking. And she's hoping she can find water. And one of the things that she brings up is the threes. You can live for 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter in a harsh environment, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, if you have water and shelter. And I did provide a link from a survival site in the post that explains that in more detail. But she is doggedly determined. She is worried that she won't find Jamie in time, that she's lost and she's going to die. The first night she sleeps, she's harshly woken up by fire ants crawling up her leg. I mean, she had found a flint and made herself fire, so she was being a good Girl Scout, right? Campfire girl, is that what they're called in England? And then she wakes up to ants crawling all over her and biting her. I have had a single fire ant bite me on the foot when I was petting a horse once, many years ago. My foot got swollen up and it hurt for hours and hours. And it took days before it felt completely better. The idea of being swarmed and having multiple bites all over me, I can't imagine the pain that she was in. That is horrendous. And then the second time she sleeps and wakes up, there is a freaking giant snake crawling over her. She just lays there. I don't know what kind of snake it is. Python, constrictor, not sure. So if one of you know what kind of snake it is, please feel free and email me at contact@adramavoutlander.com or call the listener line 719-425-9444 or leave a note on the Facebook discussion thread or even on Twitter to me, Dram of Outlander on Twitter. So she's getting completely sunburned and she's exhausted and she keeps on walking. And then at some point, she sees a crocodile skeleton. Now that is important, so keep your eye on that for the next 2 episodes. And after she sees the crocodile bones, she hears a man, and he's giving a sermon. He's preaching, and she promptly passes out when she feels like, I can't even, and passes out. She's ready for somebody to find her and take care of her. She did her job. She got somewhere where there was another human. She wakes to an angry woman giving her water and almost waterboarding her. She's tied to the bed, and I thought, oh, did this just turn into Misery, the movie? But no, it's to keep her from scratching. So she bound her hands and feet to the bed. And there's salve all over her. And Claire goes back to sleep, and the angry woman takes her clothing to wash and repair, but she sees the zipper. She doesn't say anything, but she gives Claire a look, and she's unhappy. She wakes again to a man and a dog. It's Father Fogden of Hacienda de la Fuente. He's also English, and he's happy to see that she's an Englishwoman as well. She tells him she's a doctor and asks to be untied, and she slowly drinks the water. And he says that she's a miracle and a blessing upon his house because a baby goat has been born, and it's been some time since that's happened. We also learn her location is San Domingo, Haiti. And there's a link in the post about that area as well. And then we learn there is something quite amiss with this priest, Father Fogden. He has a coconut he talks to and calls it Coco. And he has conversations with Coco. So I said, wow, cuckoo for coconuts. All right, man. So obviously he's had some kind of mental health breakdown. We don't know why yet, though. And he mentions somebody named Ermenegilda. And we don't know who she is, but he says she's beautiful. Then we learn that angry woman is known as Mamacita. Mamacita is very unhappy to have Claire there. Did it simply disrupt her day-to-day life? Is she concerned about something? I don't know, but she plays angry really, really well. She calls Claire a cow. I guess that's better than whore for a change. She tells Claire she stinks, which undoubtedly she must. And she fills up the outside bathtub and gives her soap and towels. That seems like the most wonderful idea, and Claire always likes a hot bath. I don't know how hot that water was, but I'm certain it felt good. Until she sees the ram's skull watching over her. There's obviously something with goats or sheep or other kind of animals. This guy has some strange connection to them. We see the baby goat, and all I could think was, they're so cute. I just love them. It also means that there'll be fresh milk if anybody wants it. And then I thought, as they sit down for a meal of plantains, manioc, and red beans, I wonder if the food tastes like anger and resentment. I won't cook if I'm in a really bad mood because I'm sure it's going to taint the process. I don't know if Mamacita's food could possibly taste good, or if she's just serving it with anger and resentment as a side dish. So yes, Father Fogden's relationship status was complicated, and now it goes to widowed. So we learn about Ermenegilda, and she was a woman that he had met on Cuba when he was going to do the Lord's work, but she was married to a rich and powerful man. But they fell in love, and then they ran away together with Mamacita, and they were able to escape because at the very same time, Cuba was attacked by the Brits. So it was a blessing. He saw it as a sign from God. And I did see a continuity error that made me laugh because I noticed that the wine glasses were empty. Nobody poured the sangria, and then all of a sudden there's sangria in the cups. It was magic. Mamacita is not liking the conversation that Father Fogden is having with Claire. She's suspicious. And she's giving Claire full eye, side eye, staring her down. That would make for a most uncomfortable meal. And he offers Claire some yupa at the end of the meal, and I looked it up, and I can't find any word yupa in any language that means hemp or marijuana. And since he said it makes you feel euphoric, pretty sure he's smoking weed. Not hemp, which is very low THC. It might make you relaxed, like if you were smoking nicotine, but it would not necessarily make you euphoric. Claire begs off and does not want any. And Claire really wants to leave the next day after she finds out how far everything is, and Father Fogden says he'll go with her next week, but she is really concerned that she won't find Jamie. So she gets up from the table, and there's a huge row between Mamacita and Father Fogden, and they're yelling at each other in Spanish, and Mamacita calls her a whore. There you go. Everybody has to call Claire a whore upon meeting her. And Claire decides, as she's in this hallway, she finds a small mirror, and she puts it in her pocket. I don't know why she felt possessed to pick it up and put it in her pocket, but she did. The conversation she has with the father is really sweet. He talks about how much he loved, I will say his wife. I don't know if they ever got married. Hermenegilda. And he could never love anyone else. And Mamacita's worried that Claire will stay. And he's not sure if she understands that kind of love. So she explains to him that yes, and she has to get to her husband because she's worried she will lose him forever. And she wants to leave the next day. And he says they have to talk to Coco first to see what is advised. Okay. I wonder what accent the coconut has. So Mamacita wants Claire to leave and fast enough so the door doesn't even hit her on the way out. And Claire, really smartly, decides that when she gets dressed and the father's coming to check on her and consulting Coco, that she will pick up Coco and have a conversation. And this convinces the father that she should be able to leave. But just then, we hear Mamacita yelling for him, and she's panicking. Claire goes outside of the house with the father, and Mamacita hands him the head of a roasted goat. And it's poor Arabella. I don't know what they do with the goats if they don't eat them. But he has a whole bunch of them. I mean, if they're not eating them, they can only get milk if there's baby goats. So I have no idea. But he loves them nonetheless. And they're his family. So it's pretty weird that the father grabs these flesh-eating bugs. They look like beetles to me. And I wrote down, that's some freaky shit right there, Padre. And in the course of this, Abandawe, which I still want to say Abandawe, is brought up. And that's on Jamaica, and it's powerful. And Claire has a flashback to Mary Campbell having a premonition about Abandawe to Claire. The Chinaman roasted this goat, and there's other sailors, and Mamacita takes this as a, we can get rid of this lady, and tells her to go run this way. It's just over there to the beach. Claire runs, and she runs. And we see that the Artemis is undergoing repairs. So navigating the area and maybe a storm combined was too much, and we lost Captain Rains, first mate, I guess it's what you call him, Warren, and the ship's cook, Murphy. And they're gone. They're at the bottom of the sea. And I do have to mention that Hayes and Leslie are no Engbert. They're trying, but it's just not the same. So one of the men knows how to handle the helm. Wow, how handy is that? Because Jamie's no captain or sailor. But Jamie can oversee the men. And Claire continues to run. Hurry, Claire! So Mamacita must have taken an hour to get back to the house, or more, because by the time Claire hits the beach, they already have everything repaired and back on the ship. And they're getting ready to set sail in just a couple of hours when it gets dark. And Claire is freaking out. So she's on the beach and she decides, oh, they can't probably see or hear her from there. So she pulls out that handy dandy mirror and flashes sunlight in Jamie's face. I mean, such a great trick, right? Makes me wonder if she learned it from her Uncle Lamb. That's my guess. She's bleeding pretty heavily because she injured her arm on the run. A stick was jutting out a branch, and it cut her pretty deeply. So Jamie gets the spyglass, and he sees her on the beach. And they row back out. And he yells for her before they row. I'm like, settle down, T-Rex. She cannot hear you. But that's about as uppity as Jamie gets the entire episode. And then I wrote down, is this a kissing book, Grandpa, after they embrace? Yes, they greet and kiss, and it's nice and normal and wonderful. And turns out that Tien Cho knows how to suture. He's very good with his hands. It's not only that he's an artist and a poet. So he's doing a fine job suturing up this pretty decent gash on her arm. It's probably 3 inches and deep. So she's getting many sutures. I was estimating somewhere between 8 and 12. It's pretty large. And Claire's just sitting there taking it. And Jamie's drinking wine behind her, and it's cracking me up. I'm like, why isn't she drinking the wine? But they're talking during this process, and she explains to Jamie what happened on the Porpoise, what Captain Leonard was planning on doing, about the excise man, the one-eyed guy. And so she spills the beans on the father and Mamacita and everything that's happened. And Jamie explains about the losses on the Artemis and the repairs being needed. And after Tien Cho is done, they're just talking, and Jamie says there's been so much death and hardship, and we need to have some joy in our life. And he gave his blessing to Marsali and Fergus to get married. And Claire, he wants to have a wedding. And Claire says, hey, I know somebody who can help with that. So it's a decent travel from the water to Hacienda de la Fuente. But they go. She and Tien Cho, with a chicken in hand, along with Jamie, go to make reparations to Father Fogden for the eating of his goat, Arabella. And so Tien Cho has to kind of eat crow and say and hit where he's from. They don't revere goats, and he asks if he will be forgiven, and he holds up this caged bird. And Father Fogden says he was a stranger in a strange land once too, and he forgives him, and he takes the chicken. And then he offers Tien Cho the pipe to share. man, weed smoking, sangria drinking priest, ex-priest. Are you ever an ex-priest? Or are you maybe a defrocked priest? I don't know how that works. I think once a priest, always a priest. It's part of who he is. So we skip to the wedding. And, oh, no, I forgot. First, we see this small kindness and this hint of connection between Marsali and Claire. Claire is helping Marsali get dressed, and I presume this is a Hacienda de la Fuente, because it'd be a long journey back and forth from the boat. And Claire learns that Marsali doesn't want to have a bairn right away and wonders why, and she said that her mom would always shrink back from Jamie when he tried to touch her sexually, romantically, lovingly, but she thinks that Claire likes being with her daddy, and Claire says yes. So basically, Marsali wants to enjoy sex with Fergus the way that Claire does with Jamie. And I put in parentheses, even if you are a horror mother, Claire, you might be able to help me. So Claire says when they get back to the ship that night, she will explain how to prevent pregnancy. Awesome. And Marsali just tells her that she might not be the devil after all. So we see the wedding, and I love this, because Leary would lose her frickin' mind, right? If her daughter is getting married to an ex-thief who was born in a brothel and only has one hand, doesn't have any real job, who's almost twice her age, on a beach, late at night, with a defrocked priest, a bunch of goats, and disreputable sailors. I don't think Larry would be very happy. But Marsali looked beautiful, so did Fergus, and all the sailors. Oh, the romantic lots, aren't they? It's a really funny and wonderful wedding. And Father Fogden, he's not quite all there. And he asks her if she wants to marry him, even if he's missing a hand. And says, not as though he's lost his cock. If you'd hurry up and get on with it, I could find out. So Marsali is giving it right back. And it's proceeding, and we get her name, Marsali Jane McKimmy. And Fergus has to have a name as well. You have a name too, and a cock? I can't marry you without it. It's not allowed. It's one of my favorite lines. Yes, that one's from the book. But it's so funny, because he's thinking he can't marry someone who can't reproduce children because they're Catholic. And this is where one of the most wonderful things happen. After 20 years, Jamie formally adopts Fergus, and he gives him the last name Fraser. So he is Fergus Claudel Fraser, and Claudel is his given name. So this makes everyone really happy. Everyone's beaming. They're drunk on the joy of wedding. I'm like, sniff, sniff, who doesn't love a wedding? And the priest gives Jamie and Claire his blessing as well for their marriage, which I thought that was a really sweet touch. So finally, Jamie and Claire get to share a cabin. I mean, she was sharing with a really mad Marsali while she was on the Artemis, and then she was on the Porpoise for a few weeks, right? And then it's been several days since she was rescued by the father and Mamacita and Ludo the dog. So it's been a while since they've shared any space together. So they get the captain's cabin, which is quite large and spacious. And I don't know where Marsali and Fergus are. We didn't see any of that. So we see Claire chowing down on some delicious soup. She's like slurping it. She's acting all like drunk. And she's fevered. Jamie comes in because she asked him to bring the penicillin. And those damn tropical germs from her getting that serious cut on her arm, she's got an infection that needs to be treated. And she keeps eating the soup, and poor Jamie cannot bring himself to stabbing her with the penicillin needle. So she stabs herself, and frankly, that wasn't her ass, that was her thigh. Get your anatomy correct, people. And Claire is feeling fevered and a bit tipsy and very randy. And she's not going to take no for an answer. She finds out that this is turtle soup, and then she says, oh, it's supposed to be an aphrodisiac. I don't think Claire needs turtle soup for that. And I also wrote, it has been a while for the nipple eye stare situation to go on. So Jamie's trying to push her off and say no, and it'll hurt her arm, and she's ill and fevered and drunk, for goodness sake. You can't get drunk on turtle soup. If it's Willoughby's turtle soup, he says, a whole bottle of sherry in it. You can't be drunk if you're standing up, she says. You're not exactly standing. So they have this back and forth. And finally he gives in and says, this must be what it's like making love in hell with a burning she-devil. Just so you know, for the sake of being clinically correct, if a woman has a fever, the inside of her vagina is hot as well. It's all connected. So I imagine it would be like making love to a burning she-devil. Claire bars the door. And then, as they're getting hot and heavy and they're naked, we hear Tien Cho, honorable wife. She enjoyed the turtle soup? And Jamie just wants him to go away. He wants to know if she's had enough. And Claire says, not enough. Or I think she says no. And Jamie just wants him to leave and says, good night, Willoughby. And Tien Cho like nods in understanding. And I wrote, if the cabin is rockin'. And Willoughby smiles and is satisfied that all is well. And we go to black. This was not an episode that was deep and meaningful. It was transitional, but all these things were important. So now we have Marsali and Fergus married. Jamie and Claire reunited, but we do have the issue of Captain Leonard. Jamie's a wanted man again. Are they going to be able to manage the ship to Jamaica without a true captain and real sailors on board? Are they going to find young Ian at some point? We haven't seen him in a very long time. So it's interesting. I think it gave us all the components that were necessary. It made sense. There was nothing overwrought about it. We did get the sense of Samwise and Frodo trying to return Precious. But it was hard. But I thought this was really well done. It had a good flow. There was some comedy in it. There was some bittersweet parts to it. And everything worked well together. The next episode is called The Bacra. And they finally reach Jamaica. And they're closer to their goal. And they go to a lavish ball on the island, where they encounter an old ally and some adversaries. So I'm thinking they're going to run into Thomas Leonard and his crew. And there might be a certain old friend that they run into, whose ball it is. And the Bacra is a slave driver or slave master, is what that means. So I really would want to hear what you have to say about this episode. I know this podcast is short and sweet this week. That's all the material we had to work with. Some, it took me over an hour, and this one, a little more than half of that. But I enjoyed seeing Claire struggle and Jamie be calm within himself and simply making a plan, for goodness sake, instead of flipping out everywhere. So please drop a line to 719-425-9444 or send an email to contact@adramofOutlander.com. Leave feedback on the Facebook group or page, A Dram of Outlander. The group you have to ask to join, and we're getting some nice numbers of people in there. It's a fun place to be. On Twitter and Instagram, it's Dram of Outlander without the A in front. So get in there, participate with each other. I have really great followers who are super smart, and there's some good dialogue that goes on and contemplation, and not the drama I see other places where people are just nasty or rude or don't know how to have any kind of discourse with disagreement in a respectful way. Thank you all for being adults, and it is rare that I have to moderate anything, and I'm so happy for that. Wednesday nights, every week, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we meet over on Twitter under hashtag ADOO for A Dram of Outlander, and we talk about the previous week's episode/podcast. And other people have insights that I don't have. I can't possibly see everything. So come over and join in. And any of your questions, comments, thoughts, tweets, messages may be included in a future podcast. To support the podcast, please share it. Tell other people about it. Be active on the Facebook page and group. Go to the website. There's lots of material there. Leave me a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, or however you listen to the podcast. That helps people find me. And on the website, adramofoutlander.com, every podcast I've ever done is on the Listen to Podcast page. There's also written posts that don't have podcasts attached to them. You can also support the podcast financially. I am a solo person maintaining the website and all the other things that go with the podcast by myself. You can go to patreon.com/adramofoutlander and give as little as $1 a month. Everything that is given is appreciated. Or if you want to make a one-time offering, you can drop me an email or phone message, and I'd be happy to tell you how to do that. Remember, we will be going directly into the Drums of Autumn read-along. If you haven't read the other books, that's okay. You can pick up here and then go back, because season 4 is built on what's happened in the TV series so far and the book material. It is going to be a long read-along, 42 episodes. There is no way around it. I'm starting on December 17th, and it's going through the end of September. So if the show comes back in mid-September like it did for season 3, I will work faster to get the podcast out ahead of the TV show. So I thank you so much for listening. And as always, I appreciate you. And if you didn't listen, there'd be no reason for me to do a podcast. So until next time, slán je va.